IOFM's first virtual demo day. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we start our next demonstration. If you have any technical questions or issues using the WebEx platform, please use the chat box and someone will respond to you right away. If you have any issues with audio, please click on the phone icon above the chat window to receive the teleconference information. For those of you that do call in, to ensure call quality, everyone's lines have been muted today. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the product demonstration. Please type your questions into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. At the end of the demonstration, we will have our presenters answer your questions. One more important note, this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you with full day access, and you can come and go as you see fit or your schedule allows. Our next demonstration is sponsored by Tipalti and is presented by Anand Misra and Nick Fischler. At this time, I'd like to welcome our presenters and hand the presentation off to Anand and Nick. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mark. I hope everybody can see my screen, the presentation.
We can.
So, great. So hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar. My name is Anand Misra and I'm the Director of Product and Partner Marketing at Tipalti. I have with me Nick Fischler, Tipalti Solution Consultant, who will show you a live demo of the Tipalti solution shortly. So today I will cover how you can take a holistic approach to automating payables operations and succeed in the current economic situation while also laying foundation to scale when the situation gets back to normal. So let's get started. So here's the agenda for today. I will start by highlighting a few of the challenges that the discipline of finance faces today. I will also share some recommendations on how you can take a holistic approach to automating your payables operations. I will then provide a quick overview about the Tipalti solution and share some examples of our customers who have benefited from smart automation. As I mentioned earlier, this will be followed by a live product demo by our solution consultant, Nick Fischler, and we will open it up for Q&A after that. So the role of finance has broadened over the past decade, and this is not new to anyone. Beyond the core responsibilities of accounting, bookkeeping, financial reporting and analysis, closing the books, finance leaders are playing a prominent role in company-wide strategy, in mergers and acquisitions, globalization, and a whole lot more. CFOs have also become prominent as the voice of the company in investor relations and in communications to the board as well. Suffice it to say that the role of finance has broadened and become more strategic. The problem, however, is that the back-end processes are still highly manual, which take a lot of effort to get done. In fact, the effort may be higher now since you have to deal with areas such as the gig economy, different business models, your vendors and suppliers are dispersed globally, and the frequent changes in tax and regulatory compliance, in addition to dealing with the current economic situation. Especially if you look at accounts payable, it is the #1 most manual and time-consuming function in finance, and that is according to the Institute of Finance and Management, who is our host today. And that generally stands in the way of finance modernizing, automating, and getting to the higher standard of doing more strategic tasks. Our take at Tipalti is that this most time-consuming activity can be automated relatively quickly and easily and run like a machine. At Tipalti, we look at payables holistically, not just the invoice piece or the payments piece, but the end-to-end function and automating those. And with the current solutions that are available in the market today, you can basically eliminate 80% of your payables workload. So let's see how you can get that done. So essentially, to do it right, finance needs to take a holistic approach to modernizing the payables operation, addressing not only the short-term requirements, but also by helping finance organizations to support the long-term priorities. So there are 4 areas that we recommend that finance needs to look at. First, maximizing efficiency across end-to-end payables workflow. So how do you do that? So you can reduce the workload spent managing payables by 80% by automating the end-to-end workflow, from self-service supplier management to AP tax compliance, ensuring touchless invoice processing or straight-through invoice processing, global payments execution, supplier communications, and payment reconciliations within your ERP systems. You will see shortly how Tipalti helps you accomplish this when Nick shows you the demo. Additionally, as your supplier count, invoice volume, payments volume, and subsidiaries and global presence grows, by automating a large portion of your payables operations, you can avoid or reduce manual processes. You can also stay lean by putting a system in place that automates your global payables operations with cross-border payments, multi-subsidiary, intercompany transfer capabilities within a single scalable platform. The second area towards a holistic approach to modernizing the payables operation is increasing business visibility. By accelerating the financial close with real-time reconciliation with your ERPs across different payment methods, currencies, subsidiaries, etc., CFOs get timely access to important data, which leads to more informed decision-making. They also get timely visibility into AP spend with instant insight across all suppliers, across every business unit and geography. For CFOs and finance teams, it means more time to focus on value-added functions such as analysis and insight. For example, they can review the data and provide input into scaling operations either up or down, especially in response to the cash flow crisis that they are facing today, or changing market conditions, or even reallocating resources to capitalize on emerging opportunities. The third benefit of a holistic approach to smart automation is to rapidly adapt to changing business needs. Your system has to keep up with the changing needs of a high-velocity, fast-growing business. So as you add suppliers, increase invoice and payments volume, and expand internationally, adding subsidiaries and having different payables workflows, your system should be able to handle the complex scenarios instead of struggling to keep up with these complexities. And with the right system in place, you can focus on your business strategy rather than system upgrades or all the complexities that come when you're growing fast, and adapting to those changing needs. The fourth benefit is to ensure that you have smart financial and cash controls and that you're compliant. You have to ensure that you're compliant and can prevent fraud and penalties, which is totally unnecessary and avoidable with the right system in place. Make sure that your system has enterprise-grade security and two-factor authentication for both payers and suppliers, and that it can segregate roles by using permissions to drive who can access what information. Also make sure that you comply with all the OFAC and AML regulations to make sure that you don't pay anybody that is on a government watch list somewhere. Make sure that the highly complex, highly manual process of collecting tax information is automated directly during the onboarding flow. This will help ensure IRS tax compliance and avoid penalties. So hopefully, having provided a bit of context on the challenges facing the finance today and what to look for basically in a holistic payable solution, I wanted to give you a quick overview about Tipalti, which is the leading global payables automation system for fast-growing companies with hundreds of customers, and examples of some that you can see on your screen. We take pride in serving our customers and are proud to have a 98% customer satisfaction rate. More than 11 billion worth of transactions is transacted through our system annually for well over 4 million pays around the world. We are a licensed money transmitter and a regulated financial institution, so we are subject to strict scrutiny by legislation by the US government. So our name Tipalti basically means that we took care of it, which implies that let us take care of your global payables operations, which allows you to free your staff on more value-added activities so that they can deliver and do the best quality work for you. So this is the Tipalti V, which highlights a philosophy that if you put a robust system in place now, you will not outgrow it as you scale. We provide an end-to-end solution to manage the entire payables operations. It starts with supplier management with self-service supplier onboarding, which includes over 26,000 built-in rules and validation to ensure data integrity. We have a KPMG certified tax compliance engine that identifies and collects the correct tax forms such as W-9s and W-8s and generates the 1099 and 1042 tax prep reports and also calculates any necessary year-end withholdings. The solution includes invoice processing with OCR technology and machine learning to ensure touchless invoice processing, along with advanced approvals. We have 2- and 3-way PO matching if they are PO-backed invoices. We are a licensed money transmitter, like I stated earlier, and pay across 196 countries and 120 currencies with 6 different payment methods. We also do sanction screening to ensure that you don't pay anybody who's on a terrorist watch list or who's listed as a money launderer somewhere. We have robust AP reporting with more than 20 out-of-the-box reports and real-time multi-entity payment reconciliation with ERP, which basically ensures faster financial flows. NetNow is our built-in early payment solution, so you can generate revenue by paying your suppliers earlier without adding to your workload or impacting your working capital. The one last capability that I want to highlight is our multi-FX or intercompany bank transfer capability that you see below under Service Foundations. You can save time and money on foreign exchange or FX conversions, and it's ideal for companies with multiple entities who are paying in different currencies globally. Essentially, Tipalti converts the currency it's funded into subsidiary currencies and processes these payouts. It's all built in on the Tipalti platform, which ensure proper financial controls or compliance are in place. So here are some specific ROI examples from our customers. Touch of Modern, which is a men's fashion company, went from $6 million to $150 million in annual revenue without adding to any AP resources. Zola, which is a wedding registry company handling over $100 million in payments annually, kept their AP staff at 2 instead of 10 as they had originally projected. Foursquare, which is a location technology platform, accelerated financial close by 16 days. And Docker, which is a virtualization and a container technology platform, not only reduced the AP workflow, or the workload, I should say, by 87%, but also accelerated monthly close by 25%. So that, in a gist, is the Tipalti presentation. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Nick for a live demo. Nick, the floor is yours.
Nick, I think you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right. And let me share my screen here. Okay. And can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So again, my name is Nick Fischler. I'm a solutions consultant here at Tipalti. And today I'm going to be walking you through a quick demonstration of the Tipalti platform. And I always like to start presentations just by kind of setting the stage, and I'll restate a few words that Anand mentioned as well. So really at our core, right, Tipalti is a holistic end-to-end payables automation platform. And like Anand mentioned earlier, really what that means is that we aren't simply just a point solution, right? We don't just take care of invoice processing. We don't just take care of payments. We can really streamline and automate everything from the onboarding and management of your vendors. So that means making sure that we have accurate payment details on file, making sure that we have the right tax forms on file, to invoice processing and automating that process, whether it be capturing information off of the PDF invoice, whether it be sending it through that invoice through the appropriate approval workflows or PO matching, and then paying out on that invoice across the world, and finally providing the proper reporting and reconciliation needed to close your books in a timely manner. This is also going to mirror the flow of the demo today. So I'm going to start up at the top with these two pieces here, the supplier management and tax compliance, and we'll walk through our self-service white-labeled onboarding portal that we provide. Then I will switch gears and we'll talk through invoice processing, payments, and then finally we will end with some reconciliation and reporting. So just to orient you real fast as we get into the product here, this is the Tipalti AP Hub. So this is where you, your finance team, your AP team are going to be living here. And from this platform, you can do your payments, your invoice processing, your vendor management, et cetera, from one dashboard. And I mentioned that the place that we're going to start this demo is with onboarding. And the reason why we start here is we meet a ton of customers where when we first meet them, they're really struggling with collecting payment details accurately, especially as they're scaling globally, because every country might need different payment details. Or maybe they get to the end of the tax season and they realize that they're missing W-9s, and so they end up having to hunt down this information. And so we want to try to eliminate these sorts of problems before they ever really become problems. And the way that we're going to do that is through a self-service white-labeled onboarding portal. So self-service, and that the vendor, the supplier, they're going to be onboarding themselves, providing all their own details so that you and your AP team don't have to hunt down that info. And white-labeled in that this can all look and feel like your branding, your color scheme, logo, et cetera. And the way that we're going to kick off this, this process is we're going to invite the vendor to onboard. I can hit Add Payee here, and really we just need a few pieces of information, an email address and a payee ID, which is going to be a unique identifier for that vendor. And then we can hit Invite to Supplier Portal, hit Add, and kick off an invite to that vendor. You might also know that we have this preferred entity piece here. This kind of speaks to what Anand mentioned earlier about our multi-entity support. We are made to mirror multi-entity structures to scale with you as you grow. Anyways, I'm going to press Add here, and that's going to kick off an invite to the vendor. So they're going to receive something that looks like this. You can see that it, again, is white labeled, your branding, in this case, our fictitious demo company, Eversky here, your email alias, etc. And when they're ready, they can click into the link, and it will take them into this white labeled onboarding portal, where they're going to, the vendor is going to be filling out these three pieces of information, address, payment method, and tax forms. The address tab here is really meant to be kind of the who, what, where information, the basic demographic information. We're going to do a few things with that information. So the first thing is that we are going to do OFAC screening, like speaking to what Anand mentioned earlier. So we're going to bump all this information up against sanctions list, blacklist, terrorist watch list. Just make sure that you're not paying anybody that you shouldn't be paying, right? No bad actors. The other thing that we're doing with that information, specifically the address information, is based on where the vendor is located. That's actually going to determine the payment methods that are available to them on this next tab. So you'll see in this situation, this vendor said that they were based in the US. And when we go into the next tab here, you'll see that ACH is a payment method for them to choose. Now, if I said instead that maybe I was based in Germany, for example, ACH would disappear because ACH isn't available over in Germany, and instead we might see a SEPA payment. So just know that we know what payment methods are available in each country, and we take it one step further. And I think what's more impressive is that we know what payment details are needed per payment method per country. So for example, we know that a wire going into the US is going to need an ABA number. If I said that I was in Germany, maybe we see an IBAN code here instead, or in India, maybe an IFSC code. We have over 26,000 different rules built into the system to ensure that we're collecting accurate details on these payment methods here. So I'll just give you a quick example here of one of those rules. Maybe I mistyped my routing code for an ACH. The system is going to give me instant feedback telling me that this isn't a valid routing code for the US, and it won't even let me go on to the next tab until we fix these errors. So really pushing that onus to provide clean information onto the vendor. You can also control what payment methods are provided to the vendor here. So maybe you decide that PayPal doesn't make sense for your business model, and you can simply remove it from this list. You might notice that we have quite a few payment methods here. we do offer 6 different payment methods across 120 different currencies in 190 countries. So there is a ton of flexibility here as you grow. Now I'm just going to move on to tax for the purposes of this demonstration. So for tax forms, what we've done is partnered with KPMG to create a tax form questionnaire and tax form capture system. And the tax form questionnaire is where I'm going to start first. This is a great tool for your international vendors who might not have ever seen a U.S. tax form before, let alone know which form they need to fill out. So this is a tree of questions that's going to hold their hand, guide that vendor to the appropriate tax form for them. So I'll just give you a quick example here. Are you an individual? No. Are you based in the U.S.? If I say yes, then of course this will push to a W-9. If I say something else though, let's say that I'm not based in the U.S., I'm just going to go down the list here and click no for all of these. In this case, that's going to push me to a W-8 Benny. So again, just providing a little bit of guidance and help to those international folks. Likewise, kind of along with that international focus, we do also have the ability to provide this portal and all of our email communications in today about 16 different countries. I'll just go into the W-9 for the purposes of this demonstration, and you can see that we have a digitized version of the W-9 here. We're doing a few things in the background. One is just collecting this in a nice secure portal, right? We don't want necessarily to be collecting social security numbers and really personal information in a public or semi-public email inbox, like a Acme, ap@acme.com or something along those lines. So this is a nice secure portal that we can collect the information in. This portal can also have 2-factor authentication built into it, so those vendors feel nice and secure providing that information. The other thing that we're doing is TIN validation. So we're actually taking the name that they provide along with the EIN and social security number here, or social security number, and bumping that up against the IRS database just to ensure that those match. And if they don't match, your vendor can be notified, you can be notified as well, that, hey, we need an accurate form in order for you to be paid. Now, once they finish this 3-step onboarding process, this portal is going to be a tool for them to use. So they can always come back in here whenever they want. They don't have to reach out to you, for example, to change their payment method from wire to check. They can just do it themselves. They don't have to call you up anymore saying, hey, where's my payment at? They can actually look up their status and see if a payment's been already submitted for payment. Maybe it's already been paid out and they can download a receipt. Or maybe something went wrong. They can actually see what went wrong. In this case, they never provide their W-9. That's why they never got paid. We're also going to be sending email communications that mirror what you just saw in that portal. So, for example, if a payment is processed, hey, your payment's on its way for X, Y, and Z amount. Or, hey, we tried to pay you, but for X, Y, and Z reason, that payment couldn't go through. Like in this case, again, tax forms. So not just telling them that a payment failed, but actually telling them why it failed. Now I'm going to switch gears here and talk to the invoice processing and payments side of Tipalti. So in this situation, the first step we need is an invoice in the system. There's a couple ways to get an invoice into the system here. The first way is actually via the portal. The vendor can actually upload it here in the Submit an Invoice tab. Second way would be if you are receiving snail mail, paper mail, you can scan it onto your computer and simply upload it here. And then the last way and most common way that we see this being done is that we'll use an invoice-specific email inbox. Something like an invoices at, in this example, eversky.com. And we can sit on top of that email inbox and pull out automatically all of the invoices from that email inbox. Now, let's just say that we have our invoices that have been pulled in. The next step here is in this pending review tab here. These are all the invoices that I or the AP team is going to have to review. So I can click into this invoice here. and you'll see that the PDF pops up here. We're going to use OCR technology, so optical character recognition, to capture all of the information here. So the line item details, the invoice number, the date, etc. Those are all going to be captured here. We can mirror whatever fields you have within your ERP system, whether that be NetSuite, QuickBooks, Intact, etc. I also know that I mentioned earlier that we do have multi-entity support. This is another big place that comes in handy. So the preferred entity that I set up for this vendor earlier will default in this field here, but it still gives you flexibility. So if you're sharing vendors across different entities, you still are able to reallocate that invoice accordingly to the appropriate entity. Now, I mentioned that we do have OCR working in the background here. In addition to OCR, we also have a managed services team. It's an optional service that we can provide, but this managed services team basically is a way for us to check the OCR. It's a team of individuals who can review what the OCR captured and make any necessary changes, with the idea being that OCR is not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and so this managed services team is there to ensure that we get as close to 100% accuracy as possible, so that by the time we get this invoice here in front of us, like we have on our screen, the role of the AP clerk has really changed here, right? It's no longer about manual entry of all of these line items and fields. Now it's just about giving this invoice a quick review. So just going down the list here, 721, 721, those match up. Maybe we'll check on some of the totals, 4,260, 4,260, maybe the line items, and we're good to go. And with this automation between the OCR and the managed services and some of the machine learning that's going on in the background, we've estimated that we're able to eliminate about 80% of the workload in this invoice process. Now, the next step after we have the invoice information captures, we want to send this off for the appropriate invoice approval. So you'll see this bill approval tab here, module here, and we are going to recommend an approval sequence for you based on machine learning. So the system is actually going to learn over time different trends and different rules. So for example, let's take this vendor CloudCom here. Maybe for the past few invoices for CloudCom here, we had to send this invoice to the CFO, then to Erica, and then to myself for the final approval. The next time we get a new invoice from CloudCom, the system is going to remember that, and it's going to auto-populate this approval sequence here. Now, we want to also give you abilities to teach the system other rules. So, for example, maybe every time an invoice is allocated to marketing, it has to be assigned to Erica or something along those lines. As much automation we put into the system, we also want to give you flexibility and power in here. So you do have the ability to very easily switch the order of the workflow up. Maybe I decide that I want to add a new approver into the system here, and I'm going to make Dave the first approver here. So it's very easy to change things up on the go with the correct permissions. This is all a completely permissions-driven system. Now, once we're happy with how this invoice looks, how it's been coded, and how the approval sequence looks, we're going to hit submit here, and that's going to kick off the approval sequence. So it's first going to go to Dave, then to Erica. So it's a sequential approval. So there's two ways to approve the invoice in the system. The first is via this UI here. I can very easily come in here, and this is more for a great tool for the AP team, the finance team, et cetera, who are going to be living in the system on a day-to-day basis. I can single select, multi-select, select them all. I can filter down, for example, by a particular entity. Maybe I only want to look at a particular entity. It'll filter for me. And then with the click of the button, I can approve these all at once or drill in for more details. Now, the other way to approve is going to be a great option for department heads, C-suite members, these individuals who have to approve bills on a daily basis maybe, but maybe you don't want to have to give them access access to the Tipalti system. Maybe you don't want them to go through change management of learning a new system. So for those individuals, we can send them these email approvals. So you can see here they have line level details. They have kind of a history of the past few invoices going to this particular vendor so that they get some context of this particular invoice. So for example, maybe the past 5 invoices to this vendor were for $400, and now all of a sudden we have a new invoice for $4,000. That's information that the approver might want to know. I can also see a history of the approvers, kind of who's already approved it, where it's going to next, an invoice that they can click into here, and then these really simple buttons to approve the bill. They can update the coding, send it back to the AP, all from this email. They never actually have to log into the Tipalti system to do any of this. So it's really meant to be on the go. They can do this from their phone rather than having to log in on a computer. We can also set up reminders and escalations within the system, just in case the CFO here is overloaded with emails. Maybe the original approval email slipped through the cracks, so send them a reminder every 24 hours or whatever cadence you like, just saying, hey, don't forget, got to approve this invoice. And then if let's say a week down the line, they still haven't approved it, escalate it up to someone else internally for them to approve on behalf of this individual. Now, once the invoice has been approved, it's going to end up in this pending payment tab here. This is going to be all of my fully approved invoices here. And you can see that we can, again, kind of slice and dice this information up here with these filters. There's really a couple ways to, from here, batch invoices together for payment. The first is just have the system automatically do it. We can set or configure the system to automatically batch invoices together based on due date. So maybe all the invoices from a particular week period will be batched together for a Friday payment run. Or if you want more control over your cash flow, you can also come in here and manually filter and slice and dice the info up. So let's say that I'm going to just look at this particular entity, for example, and it'll filter down for me, and I'm going to pay out these 2 invoices here. Now I'm going to hit this Pay Bills button here, and you can see that I can pay out on a cycle, so once a week, once a month, that type of thing. Or if you want, we can override that bill due date, and maybe we're going to pay these all out on the 28th. And when I hit Prepare Payments, that's going to batch these 2 invoices together here and push them into this Payments tab. And just as a quick review before we go any further, I always just like to kind of show you how we got to this point here. Pending review is where we first started off when the invoice first came in. We did the coding there. We set up the approval workflow. Then pending my approval to actually approve the invoices. If the approver sent the invoice back for any reason, maybe they needed something changed in the coding, something along those lines, it would go into pending AP action, kind of as an action item list for the AP team. And then finally, pending payment to batch all these invoices together for payment. And the reason why I like to highlight this here is just because everything has its place, right? It's really easy to have visibility of all of your invoices and know what step of the process they're in. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we've just batched together invoices. All of your batches of invoices are going to end up in this Payments tab here. So you can see I have a batch of 17 invoices, one-off invoices that I'm paying, 16 invoices, etc. This could be hundreds of invoices as you scale. And I can click into each batch to get a closer look at what it contains. And you'll see here, this is a really nice screenshot of Tipalti's payment power. We're paying across all of these different payees here, across different currencies and different payment methods. It's all from one place, right? You don't need to upload different payment files into your bank or into PayPal. You don't need to upload different files for different currencies or different payment methods. It's all centralized and aggregated into a single file. We can also put in place payment approval controls. So if you want one or multiple of your teammates to kind of give the final stamp of approval before money can leave the building, we can set that up for them here. And that approver, even at this stage late in the game, can go into a batch and decide, in this example, maybe Andre, we're not going to pay them yet. They owe me some money. I'm going to cancel this particular payment. That'll leave the rest of the batch intact. Just take out this Andre invoice, and it'll push this invoice back into the pending payment tab, kind of as a purgatory for invoices for it to be batched into another payment batch later. Now, the last step here is great. We have this batch. How do we actually process payments? You might have noticed that we have different currency accounts up here. These are called FBO accounts, or Tipalti virtual accounts. FBO accounts are for benefit of owner accounts, and they basically work as sweep accounts that we've opened up in your name with our Tier 1 banking partners like Wells Fargo and Chase. And based on the invoices that we have within the system, we will tell you in this Funds Required tab how much to actually fund each one of your balances. Now, I have a couple different currency accounts here because in my example, in my instance here, I have multiple entities. So these different accounts are kind of representing my different entities. But you could have a much simpler use case where it's just a single account here in USD. And let's say that you funded us for a payment batch. Once it lands in this account, and as long as the batch has been approved, we can process the payments out to your vendors and suppliers. One last thing that I'll just mention real fast here is once the payments have been processed on the back end, we have all of your reporting here. We do have the ability to integrate directly into a couple ERPs, including NetSuite, QuickBooks, and Intact today, with more on the way. So those are automatic, near real-time integrations and if you did not have, if you have an ERP that we don't integrate directly with, then you do have reports available to you here as well. One important report that I wanted to point out just here at the end is this 1099 prep report. This is basically because we're on the front end collecting W-9 information, SSNs, EINs, et cetera, and because on the back end we're processing payments and tracking what payments have gone out to each payee, we have all of the information needed for a 1099. So we're aggregating all of that information into this 1099 prep report just to streamline that end of year reporting process. So we won't process your 1099s for you or do those filings for you, but we are providing this prep report to streamline that process, and we do work with partners who can take it that last step of the mile and automate your filings for you. All right, I know I'm a few minutes over here, so with that, I think I will stop sharing my screen and we'll move back to Q&A. So thank you everybody so much for listening.
We do have a number of questions from our attendees, and if you haven't already asked your question or if you have any additional questions you'd like to ask, please type your question into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. We'll answer as many questions as we can in the few minutes we have left. Cindy wants to know, with those direct ERP integrations that you do you have the ability to download PO and receiver information into the system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So today we do have two-way and three-way PO matching. Today it's only available with our NetSuite integration. That will probably change in the near future here as we build out other integrations, but that is definitely something that we can do. So we have a really nice two-way, three-way PO matching module that lets you kind of in one view match up your invoices against your POs, or in a three-way situation, your invoices against receipts against POs.
And that knocks out Deanna's question. She wanted to know whether you could match POs and invoices automatically. Marie Carmen, she wants to know, she writes, we get W-9s from vendors set up before purchase order. Is the W-9 process mandatory for suppliers? It's
not necessarily mandatory. So when we, in the onboarding portal that I showed everybody, we can flip that on. It's kind of a universal switch. So if it's turned on, every vendor will be required to supply one. Now, that being said, we have some workarounds so that if maybe you've already received the W-9 from a vendor, you can mark that vendor as having already submitted that form. So that gets around the need. It'll basically tell them that they don't need to provide that form in that onboarding portal that I showed you. Hopefully
Sherry
that helps clarify.
Sherry wants to know whether the solution can handle tax treaties.
Yes, actually, so for this is more aimed probably for the W-8s. So we do have the ability to clarify tax treaties and treaties, basically claiming treaties of benefits in the W-8s. It is on the vendor's responsibility for them to actually do that claiming, though, but 100% we do.
Alan writes in, he wants to know how the solution provides tools. I'm sorry, I got to read these on the fly here. How the solution provides tools for forensic auditors to verify payments made in accordance with GAAP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we definitely do have basically reports on all payments that have gone through the system. So you can see the reference number that you could then go to the bank with and say, yep, these are payments match up here. We also do keep a record of all, a bill audit, so to speak, so that you can see who is doing what to each invoice, so who's approved it, if somebody sent the invoice back for further edits, or maybe it's been disputed, or when it was processed for payment, et cetera. So you'd be able to see that at the invoice level.
Jeff wants to know, does this solution require changes to my existing banking relationships?
It does not, no. So basically you would keep all of your operational accounts, and then for your payments, you would just fund us in one lump sum from your operational accounts.
Another attendee wants to know, talk me through the implementation process and who does the work on my end? Is it IT or someone in my AP department?
Yeah, that's a good question. That one kind of varies depending on the use case. And if you're interested in finding out more, definitely reach out to our team. But we take very much a white-gloved approach to our implementation process. You're assigned an implementation manager. It's not like we simply just open up a sandbox for you and kind of drop you in it. So the implementation manager, they're in charge of getting you up and live and happy with your instance, configured how you like your Tipalti instance. And usually it can take anywhere, depending on the use case, from a week to 8 weeks, depending on the complexities involved in the integrations that you might be using.
Just a quick add from
yes.
my side as well on that. So just a quick add. So from our perspective, the configuration and setup of the system is generally minimal. Since it's a cloud-based system, it's built with the intention that the customers can onboard, process invoice, remit through the system as soon as possible. And to Nick's point, we can have customers up and running from anywhere from a week to like a few weeks. But we do have a true and tested methodology to ensure that the customer is up and running quickly. And we deploy a whole set of teams and training methodology, et cetera. And that actually goes to the core, which our customer satisfaction rate is 98%, right? And retention rate is also 98%, which is by far the best in the industry, and we take it very seriously. So our goal is to have you up and running quickly, as soon as possible with the cloud-based system that we have.
Another question from Deanna. She wants to know, can we enter vendor information instead of sending a request to a vendor?
Yes, you definitely can. So you can log in as if, with the correct permissions, of course, you can log in as the vendor and provide, fill out their details for them. The only thing that they wouldn't be able to provide on the vendor's behalf is a tax form, because legally the vendor would need to fill out that information and sign.
Nick?
And one quick add on that point also, we have a managed services that can help you, connect with the vendors basically and design a program for you to onboard those vendors if you don't want to contact them directly.
Nick, Anand, thank you so much for an excellent presentation. That's all the time we have for this demonstration. I just have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we officially end and transition into our next session. If you could please fill out the short evaluation form that will appear once you close out of today's event, that will help us better serve your needs in future virtual demo days. As a reminder, this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you with full day access, and you can come and go as you see fit or your schedule allows. Thank you again to Nick and to Anand for a great demonstration today, and thank you to all of our attendees for taking time out of your busy days to join us. This demonstration was brought to you by IOFM and sponsored by Tipalti.